Good evening, everyone, and needless to say, thank you. I am more than honored. I'm deeply grateful for this honorary doctorate. This degree, I might point out, was an awful lot easier to get than my engineering degree from Johns Hopkins. And for the record, there is no ways that I would have been admitted to Technion back then. You should know that during my entire academic career, from kindergarten through graduate school, I always made the top half of the class possible. In fact, if I had told my professors at Johns Hopkins that one day I would be receiving an honorary doctorate from one of the world's greatest engineering and technology schools, they would have laughed at me. But on the other hand, they're probably all gone, and I'm still here, so. It is great to be with all of you, and I wanted to thank the President Levy, for those kind words and extend a very warm welcome to everyone visiting us from Israel. Israel and New York, as you know, share a special bond built on common values, and my own connections to Israel have deepened over the years. Whenever I visit, I'm struck by the spirit and the resourcefulness of the Israeli people, and that spirit has certainly shaped the course of this school's history. The state of Israel has been built on a notion of creating something from nothing, from making the desert bloom after the horrors of the Second World War, when thousands of survivors returned to their ancestral homeland with nothing more than what they could carry. They set foot on a barren, desolate land and said, "We can make this work." And they did. Over the decades that followed, despite many wars and constant threats, Israel built a thriving democracy, and from Ramat Gan to Haifa, a cutting-edge technology sector sprang forth, an industry that remains second to none on earth. No single institution, I think it's safe to say, has been more essential to that progress than the Technion. Today, half of all the Israeli companies listed on the NASDAQ are headed by Technion graduates. You claim 3 of the 4 Israeli scientists who've won the Nobel Prize in the physical science, and your alumni have led to the development of some of the world's greatest innovations, from the first wireless microprocessors to modern missile defense systems. The school has strengthened Israel in ways that are less scientific but no less important as well. The Technion attracts international students of every background, and most are drawn to the Technion for its academic excellence, not only out of any pre-existing allegiances to Israel. By exposing those young people to all that makes Israel unique and showing them that Israel is a place where anyone's bold dreams can take flight, the Technion has helped spread support for Israel in the very best way possible. And that impact goes far beyond the body of students and graduates. The school's contributions to science and technology help make it clear why a strong Israel is so important to our world, and why we all must support Israel and help it to defend itself from violence and political attacks. And that is as important today as it has ever been. The Technion is an incarnation of that quintessential Israeli idea that nothing is impossible. And that's an idea that Israel and New York City share. It's what has made both centers of innovation and invention, and it is what has allowed both to respond to adversity with strength. And maybe it's why, a few years ago, looking at an island in the middle of the East River that was full of untapped potential, people from Israel and New York came together and said, once again, "We can make it work." One of the many reasons why I love this city is that New Yorkers are always thinking about the future. If you think about it, when our city's fathers first created our street grid back in 1811, they had no reason to stretch it all the way up to 155th Street. Nobody was ever going to live up there, but they thought perhaps there was a chance. And they did so anyways because they envisioned future growth. The city planned its subway system, its parks, and our water network in the same ways, not by what we needed, but by what we imagined. They planted the seeds that helped New York bloom into what it is today. And if this sounds familiar, that's because it mirrors the history of the Technion and of Israel itself. Israel was a vision long before it was a nation, and the Technion helped transform that vision into reality by anticipating the future and then building it. The first cornerstone for what would become the Technion was laid decades before Israel's independence. The school focused on science and engineering because a new nation would need strong infrastructure to thrive, and the knowledge that students gained at the Technion became the foundation that allowed Israel to rise. That same commitment to building for the future is what led our administration to design the Applied Sciences competition and what ultimately led us to select the partnership between Cornell University and the Technion as the first winner. And a great deal of credit goes to Bob Steele, Seth Pinsky, and the teams from the mayor's office. Doing anything difficult takes a team, and I'm just lucky enough to have been at the head of that team, and you're honoring me. But the real people that we should honor tonight is Bob and Seth. Without their ideas and their execution, this never would have happened, and I want both of them to stand up. They really do deserve a round of applause. We spoke with leaders from every industry about what they anticipated needing most in the decades ahead. We heard the same thing over and over: talented engineers and applied scientists. So we borrowed a page from American history and created a land grant competition. A land grant college was just like Cornell was back then. And out of that came the Technion Cornell connection, cooperation, collaboration, and something all together. The school focused on science and engineering, and Israel has never been the same since. That same commitment to building for the future is exactly what these two people did. So a proposed new science and engineering campus on Roosevelt Island was exactly what the innovators and employers of tomorrow were demanding. It combined the best of both worlds, the academic excellence and the entrepreneurial spirit of the Ivy League and the insight and genius of Israel's Silicon Wadi. It also fit perfectly with our administration's larger goal of revitalizing the city's waterfront. New York's history, as you know, was shaped by its relationship to our harbor and waterways. But as our economy shifted away from the waterfront, neighborhoods were allowed to decay, leaving New Yorkers cut off from one of our most valuable resources. Our waterfront has become a different kind of desert, and we were determined to make it bloom again. And the beautiful campus now taking shape on Roosevelt Island is a part of that work, and it will open an extraordinary new chapter in that island's history. It will also create new companies and new jobs, pump billions of dollars into the city's economy, and make New York City a magnet for technology talent, just as the Technion has done in Israel. When it opens next year, this new campus will also attract students from every corner of the world. In fact, as the president said before, classes are already underway in a temporary space in the Google building in Chelsea, and we owe a great debt of gratitude to Eric Schmidt, who is here tonight, for helping make that possible. For those of you that know Eric, you know the following. Eric is a doer. He has great ideas, and he follows through, and he has been with us every step of the way, providing all kinds of support, from his great advice and also financial support, and also lending us the ability to start the education of our students earlier at Google. And we also a great deal of thanks to Erwin and Joan Jacobs, who've been very generous supporters of the school. They're both here tonight, and maybe a nice round of applause again for them. As someone who has built a technology startup before startups were cool, it is wonderful to see so much demand for these courses, and we don't have a moment to waste. If nations like America and Israel want to stay competitive, they need to be making more long-term investments that synthesize the best ideas from wherever they happen to be. If we want to better understand volatile financial markets, or counter violent extremism, or tackle climate change, more of our leaders need to be thinking past just the next quarter or the next election and start thinking more about the next generation. And as I've said before, there is no greater inheritance that I can leave my daughters than to do what I can to make the world a better place for them. I am a big believer in the potential of this partnership between Technion and Cornell to improve our world, starting here in New York City. And that's why I was honored to make a gift to the school in my daughters' names. Who knows, maybe one day my grandchildren will apply to Cornell Tech, although first they've got to get through kindergarten, but that's another issue. Now, I've always been an optimist. I've always believed tomorrow will be better than today, but only if we make it so and build the future we want for our children and theirs. In the Cornell-Technion partnership, that's exactly what's happening. So thank you all for making it possible. Because of you, the New York City of tomorrow will be a capital of technological innovation. The Israel of tomorrow will be more prosperous and more secure. More new companies and ideas will have risen to make life better for people everywhere. And graduates of this remarkable school now taking shape before you will be able to go out into the world learning the most important lesson of all. They'll look at the most daunting challenges facing humanity. They'll be confronted with impossible scenarios that their textbooks never covered. And uttering what will become this institution's lasting credo, they'll say, "We can make that work." Thank you so much.